Last week, when I called Yahweh a composite deity, it probably sounded a bit salacious and as if I was being facetious, but I promise you I'm not. I think that he is the quintessential example of a God who is comprised of many different gods, personalities, and attributes because he alone wasn't viable for his tribe. That is not a diss. That is not to be demeaning. It is just historically accurate. Gods were always vying for popularity. And in some cases, in order for them to be the top dog, that meant they would have to take popular aspects of other deities and add them to their personality. How do you transform a lesser known god of metallurgy and storms into God Almighty? Sure, the warrior types might have loved him, but what about the rest of us? Sure, Yahweh may have had control of the elements, but who do you run to when you need that life-giving, nurturing source? Since time indefinite, the mother goddess has been the spring from which we fill our cup. Elevating Yahweh to supreme deity would take effort, but the Yahwehs have nothing but time. Syncretism would come in waves. We'll never know exactly how this all shakes out, but we have a good idea of the gods that Yahweh is comprised of and how it would happen. First, he was going to have to assume all the roles of the other higher gods like Baal-Hadad. So if Elohim has to destroy the wriggling serpent, which he did at one time, which Baal does as he usurps El and becomes the most popular god, has to destroy Yam-Nehar, the wriggling serpent, as we've heard in the Baal cycle. So guess who's going to have to do that? Yahweh. And that's, I think it's mentioned like 3 or 4 times in the Bible, in Job, Psalms, and I'm sorry, elsewhere. It's not in my head right now. He's going to have to assume the roles of Asherah. So in many scriptures, you'll see that he becomes like a tree. He's this source of nourishment. You can sit in his shade, which is basically his divine, well, her divine presence, but now his divine presence. Epithets. That's a big one. Epithets are how you know a deity. It's not a nickname per se, but it's like a AKA, otherwise known as Melech Olam or El Shaddai. Obviously, El Shaddai was an epithet that belonged to Elohim, but now is ascribed to Yahweh. So whenever you hear that name, whenever you hear talk about a tree, whenever someone discusses the wriggling serpent, chaos, ultimately it's chaos, being destroyed and order being made in the world, now what you did associate with them, you'll associate with Yahweh as being the most popular supreme deity. Speaking of epithets, just quickly, in the name itself gives you a clue that there isn't just one God. If a God's name is God Most High, El Elyon, Most High of what? Because if you say, oh, well, Most High of humans, of the earth, that's known. We understand that. That's kind of like a duh. A supreme being is higher than us. He is higher than the other gods. It's in the name. Oh yeah, I should mention that violence is another way you're going to elevate your God above the other ones. You just kill any dissenters. And if you read the Bible, it's pretty obvious they did that up until Jesus' time. Might say that they believe that Yahweh is more of an amalgamation and less of a composite deity. And sure, we can play the semantic games. I really don't care. I just know that Yahweh isn't wholly the God that he started out to be. He needed to be zhuzhed up. He needed that je ne sais quoi. And they gave it to him via the other gods in the Canaanite pantheon because they were bad. And consider this. All of the rearranging, that is happening with the upper echelons, the ruling class, the ones who want to manage our lives. They want to tell us how to worship God. So while we, who aren't so bothered with that, because we have our own folk religion, rituals, traditions that we follow, it is they who know They are making a composite deity. They know what gods they are pulling from. They know they've taken El, Baal, Asherah. So we might not be aware, and it might have taken us thousands of years to now realize what they did. It doesn't change that that is how Yahweh became the God he is today.